Yeah, absolutely, Hugo. I mean, as you had mentioned, that the verdict that was handed down by Judge Irma Schoeman at the Gqeberha High Court on the 2nd of April, finding Timothy Omotoso and his two co-accused not guilty. But of course, that received public outcry. But not only that, the contributing factors said by Judge Irma Schoeman, which alleged or rather pointed accusations at the senior prosecutors, that was also leading this matter for misconduct. Now, we know that shortly after the following month in May, there were issues regarding Timothy Omotoso's deportation, where we were at the East London Regional Court, where the Department of Home Affairs, as well as Timothy Omotoso, challenging his deportation there on the 11th of May. That's around the exact time that the NPA had actually filed for the application to appeal the verdict that was handed down by Judge Irma Schoeman, but also sending questions, or rather asking for clarity on a number of issues surrounding that judgment as well as that verdict. Now, I'm joined by Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga from the NPA, who is going to give us clarity on this. I mean, this has been, Mthunzi, it's such the South Africans have been asking questions about this appeal, what is going to happen. But let's start with what the processes were, or rather the perspective for the NPA to actually file for this application to appeal that verdict.
Sipha, you'll recall that on 12 May, we sent a request for clarification of factual findings that informed the acquittal of Mr. Omotoso and his co-accused. The judge then, through the register, responded to say that this matter must be argued because Mr. Omotoso's attorneys were opposing it in circumstances where it's not necessarily an application. It has no bearing on the client, that is Mr. Omotoso. All we're doing is informed by the SCA decision and a number of other cases that say where factual findings are not glaring from a judgment when the accused is acquitted, seek clarity from the judge before you proceed to request or identify and draft questions of law upon which the appeal will be mounted. Tomorrow we will be arguing that request for clarification of factual findings. We take the view that it would be appropriate and in order for the judge to provide same so that we finalize identification and drafting of those questions of law where we argue that she misdirected herself or erred in acquitting Mr. Omotoso.
And now, I mean, it is rather difficult for the NPA then to seek an appeal, or rather be granted an appeal when it comes to a not guilty verdict. So currently with the NPA going in tomorrow, what do you have? Are you bringing in senior prosecutors? Because this has been a slippery case for the NPA as well as South Africa.
Given the adverse findings that were made by the judge during the delivery of her judgment in respect of the conduct of the prosecutors and the so-called ineptitude or incompetence on their part, you'll recall that the National Director sanctioned 2 reports that would be informed by an investigative process. We are expecting those reports from those external or experienced prosecutors that were appointed. However, we took a decision to appoint an independent senior counsel supported by a junior advocate to advise us on the prospects of success on appeal. They provided that opinion. It is on the basis of that we are now arguing the matter tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've been waiting for the report regarding the issue that was highlighted by Judge Irma Schoeman on the alleged misconduct of the senior prosecutors, but also looking at the Director of Public Prosecution within the Eastern Cape, but also within this district, continuing to use that advocate. Have we reached, or has the NPA reached a conclusion on what's going to happen and what the way forward regarding that issue?
2 things. One, the prosecutor in respect of the Fortem matter has been removed and replaced by other prosecutors from the organized crime component in the Eastern Cape Division. Secondly, I indicated that there are 2 reports that we are awaiting. One that relates to the conduct, ethical or otherwise, as per adverse findings of the judgment, and also the issue of competence and how they handled the prosecution process. We are awaiting that report as well.
Mm-hmm. And just now, with regards to this, I know that the next question a lot of people have been asking when that application was filed, or rather the questions for clarity was sent to Judge Irma Schoeman, was, since Omotoso could have been deported, but now we know that he's no longer in South Africa, how is then the NPA, should you be successful with this application to appeal, and then later for your appeal as well, how will you then extradite Omotoso? Is that, has that also been thought of?
We took that into account seriously. You'll recall that after his voluntary departure in the country to Nigeria, the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, said in the event that the NPA succeeds in its appeal at the SCA, he is prepared to waive that undesirability status, and the extradition application will then be made.
All right, then. So tomorrow, what can we expect in terms of the arguments presented by state, the key arguments, so argument heads presented by states in this appeal, in this application to appeal?
The main argument is the basis upon which we are seeking the clarification, to say, when we went through and interrogated thoroughly the judgment of Schoeman J, we couldn't find factual findings that are the basis of the acquittal decision of Omotoso and these co-accused. We are therefore arguing tomorrow to say, please provide those factual findings so that we can proceed to identify and finally craft the questions of law to be reserved by yourself for the consideration of the Supreme Court of Appeal.
All right, so thank you so much. That is Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga from the National Prosecuting Authority ahead of tomorrow's hearing that application where the state, as he said, will seek clarity from Judge Irma Schoeman on, of course, her verdict. Now, the state is quite limited, Hugo, when it comes to trying to turn over a verdict, a not guilty verdict. Appealing a not guilty verdict is very limited for the state because they have to find factual issues or errors with the judgment or the verdict that was then given by that judge, which is why they had asked for clarity from Judge Irma Schoeman so that they could take it on there. So it is not based only on law when they have to appeal, when the state appeals a not guilty verdict, but rather on factual error by the judge themselves. Now, Judge Irma Schoeman has then called on the state as well as the defense to then come and argue for this application to appeal.
Sipha Kema, appreciate your time. Something we're going to be looking forward to tomorrow, and we know that it's one of those stories that you will be covering for us. You watch a news feed, the PM edition on 405. We're back in a moment.